What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Paul. This is the Leeds Therapy. I do hope you are doing well. Before we get into the video, if you've not done so, make sure you subscribe, your notifications are turned on so you can keep up to date with all the latest information. Make sure you're commenting, liking and hyping. If you're listening to the audio version, make sure that you are following either on Apple or on Spotify and just give it a like for me. That would be really appreciated as well. So, keep talking about how 24 hours is very, very quick in football and how the 49ers sometimes need to be respected for the way that they conduct business or the way that they do things. And it would appear that that is the absolute case at this moment in time. It would appear that a deal in principle has been agreed for Tarik Muharemović. So what I wanted to do is just to talk you through the greater points, just give you a bit of a reminder of who Muharemović is and just run through the usual things. So I'm going to give it in the kind of usual style that I like to. So hopefully this will be worth it. So I mean, let's just jump straight into it and just crack on, shall we? So I think we've got one of the biggest transfer stories of the summer. After weeks of speculation surrounding Leeds United's search for another centre-half, it appears that the Whites have agreed a deal in principle for Sassuolo defender Tarik Muharemović. If completed, this wouldn't just be another summer signing. This would represent one of the biggest financial commitments Leeds United have ever made to a defender. Reports suggest the overall package could rise to around 34 million, including bonuses, which would make Muharemović Leeds United's record defensive signing. Now, whether figures like that are mentioned, opinions are naturally divided. Some supporters immediately think it's too much money. Others point to the Premier League market and say that's simply what quality young defenders cost these days. Personally, I think the fee tells us something much bigger. It tells us exactly how highly the Leeds United recruitment department rate this player, because the 49ers have shown since taking over that they simply do not throw money around for the sake of it. Every signing has been carefully analysed. Every player fits a profile. Every deal has been planned months in advance. So if Leeds are prepared to invest this sort of money, they clearly believe Muharemović has everything required to become one of the cornerstones of this team for years to come. Today we're going to break everything down. Like I said, I'll tell you who Muharemović is, why we're prepared to pay such a huge fee, and how did the story actually break? Why were the Italian journalists well ahead of the local media? What is this fascinating Juventus sell-on clause? And finally, what does all of this mean for Leeds United heading into the new Premier League season? So let's get into it. So Muharemović, for those supporters who might not have had a look yet or aren't aware, or don't watch a lot of Serie A, we'll start with the player. Muharemović is 23 years old and a Bosnian international defender. He's naturally left-footed. He stands around 6'5". He's physically strong, composed on the ball, and incredibly comfortable stepping into midfield with possession. Those qualities immediately explain why Farke would be interested. Ever since Pascal Struijk departed, Leeds have lacked a naturally left-sided central defender. Yes, Joe Rodon can play there. Yes, Ethan Ampadu has filled in. But there's a real difference when you've got someone naturally opening up the pitch on their stronger foot. That balances matters, especially when your manager wants to dominate possession. Muharemović began his senior career in Austria before Juventus spotted his potential and brought him to Turin. Although he never became a first-team regular, Juventus invested heavily in his development through their next-gen programme. That tells you something in itself. Juventus are one of Europe's best clubs at identifying young defenders. If they believe you've got the Premier League potential, there's usually something there. Eventually, Sassuolo secured his signature, and over the last season, he really began to establish himself as one of Serie A's most promising young centre-backs. When you watch him play, there are several things that immediately stand out. He's aggressive without being reckless. He's calm under pressure. He enjoys defending 1-against-1. He's dominant aerially. Perhaps most importantly for Farke, he actually enjoys having the ball. This isn't somebody who simply clears his lines every time. He wants to build attacks. He wants to play through the lines. He wants to break opposition presses, and that's exactly the type of defender Leeds have increasingly been targeting. Why Leeds want him? This move actually makes perfect footballing sense. Replacing Pascal Struijk was never going to be easy. You're replacing leadership, Premier League experience, a left-footed defender, someone who understood Farke's system inside out. You don't replace that with a cheap gamble. You replace it with someone capable of growing into that role over the next 5 or 6 years. That's exactly why Muharemović represents. At 23 years old, he's still improving. He's already experienced one of Europe's top leagues. He's an international footballer. He's got resale value, and perhaps most importantly, he fits Leeds' recruitment model perfectly. We've seen over the last few windows that Leeds don't simply buy famous names anymore, they buy profiles. Players who suit the system. Players with room to improve. Players who can become significantly more valuable in 3 or 4 years' time. Muharemović ticks every single one of those boxes. How the story broke. Now, this is where things become really interesting, because unlike many Leeds stories over recent years, this one wasn't driven by Yorkshire, it came from Italy. One after another, we started seeing respected Italian journalists talking about Leeds. First came reports of interest, then negotiations, then the player being offered a contract, then discussions between the clubs, then finally agreement in principle. Journalists including Longo, Padulia, Gianluca Di Massio, and of course Fabrizio Romano were all reporting significant developments as the story gathered momentum. Every few hours, another update seemed to arrive, and unlike many transfer stories, the reports all broadly aligned. That immediately increased confidence when multiple respected journalists from the same country began reporting identical information. There's usually substance in it. The biggest breakthrough probably came from Fabrizio Romano. Romano reported that Leeds had already presented the player with a verbal contract proposal and that negotiations were progressing positively. Then, as the story developed, he doubled down. Eventually, reports emerged that Leeds and Sassuolo had reached an agreement in principle. That's when this story moved from speculation to genuine expectation. Now, I think it's fair to say something many Leeds supporters have noticed this summer. The local journalists have been playing catch-up on several stories, and this was another example. Now, before anyone jumps into the comments, this isn't about criticising Graham Smith or Beren Cross. Both are excellent journalists. They've built fantastic contacts around Leeds United over many years. But this transfer window has highlighted something we've discussed on the channel before. The 49ers are running an incredibly tight operation. Information simply isn't leaking from Ellen Road like it used to. That means local journalists often only receive confirmation much later in negotiations. Meanwhile, the Italian journalists are speaking directly to agents, to club directors, to intermediaries, and to people actually involved with Serie A clubs. Naturally, they're hearing things earlier. As Leeds fans, we've almost had to become international transfer experts this summer. One day you're listening to Gianluca Di Massio, the next it's Padulia, then Gianluigi Longari, easy for me to say, then Fabrizio Romano. It certainly made this window more entertaining. One thing that also caught plenty of attention, and mine in particular, was when Fabrizio Romano appeared to reinforce his reporting after earlier scepticism elsewhere. Many fans interpreted Romano's repeat updates as effectively saying this deal is real. Supporters even joked online that Romano had gone after reporting from Graham Smith, Beren Cross and Team Talk by continuing to publish increasingly confident updates while others remained more cautious. He also put comments underneath certain pieces that those journalists in particular had put out as well, as if to just to hammer home that he's had the story for a long time and kind of where have you been with this. Journalists receive information at different times. Deals change quickly. Negotiations evolve hourly. But from a fan's perspective, it certainly felt as though the Italian market was leading this story from beginning to end. It's important to note as well that Sky Italia have also reported on this. Adam Pope has now reported on this as well. And there's a couple of other places. The original journalist who actually broke the Biol story has also been talking about this as well and was talking about it roughly around about the same time as Romano as well. So, let's talk about the fee. £34 million. That is serious money. Some supporters immediately see that figure and think Leeds are overpaying. I actually see something different. I see belief. The Premier League is unforgiving. If you want players capable of staying in the division, you have to pay Premier League prices. Leeds have learnt that lesson before. Cheap doesn't always equal value. Sometimes paying more for genuine quality actually saves money in the long run. If Muharemović develops into the defender Leeds believe he can become, the £34 million could eventually look like outstanding business. It's also important in this to mention as well that when you consider the 18 million from Stroik's sale as well, you're actually looking at something closer to 16 million as an outlay for the player for Muharemović. So that's quite good to think about. There's another fascinating twist in this, although, which is Juventus's 50% sell-on clause. Think about that for a second. Every extra million Leeds negotiate, Juventus benefit. That's huge. It also explains why Sassuolo have negotiated so firmly. They're trying to maximise every penny because such a significant portion eventually goes back to Turin. It's actually a brilliant piece of business from Juventus. Even after selling the player, they're still profiting massively from his development. This signing does send a message. We did beat off competition from Bournemouth and also Sunderland, who are both in Europe, and the deal has been agreed in principle for him to come to us, which just says to me that we're not looking to just be in the Premier League and survive. We want to have a squad capable of staying here and to progress and move up the table. Now, it would appear that we are investing heavily in the defence. Farke clearly wants athletic defenders who can play football, players capable of pressing high, defending large spaces, building attacks. Muharemović fits that vision perfectly. If he arrives alongside the players already recruited this summer, Leeds suddenly begin to look like a side genuinely capable of competing in the Premier League, rather than simply making up the numbers. So, where do we stand tonight? Leeds United appear to have reached an agreement in principle for Muharemović. The Italian journalist broke the story. Fabrizio Romano repeatedly strengthened the reporting. The local journalist eventually followed as more information became available. And the fee looks as though it's going to be an astonishing £34 million, 40 million euros, potentially making him Leeds United's record defensive signing, or record signing, full stop. Juventus is set to benefit significantly thanks to their remarkable 50% sell-on clause, and perhaps most importantly, this feels exactly like the sort of ambitious transfer we've always wanted to see since promotion. Young, athletic, technically gifted, Premier League ready. If everything now proceeds smoothly and the paperwork is completed, Leeds United may well have secured one of the standout defensive signings of the entire transfer window. As always, though, nothing is official until the club announce it. So we will wait patiently for those famous photographs at Ellen Road, the scarf above the head, and the announcement we've all been waiting for. But I have to say, this one feels close. Very close. And if Muharemović is wearing a Leeds shirt in the coming days, I genuinely believe we are looking at one of the most exciting defensive signings since the club made, let's see, Lucas Radebe. End of story. So, there you have it. That's all of the information together. I did want to run with it really, really quickly, but I wanted to just try and grab bits and pieces of information and just pull it all together and make something a little bit more succinct, and just to give you as much background and information as I possibly can do for it. So hopefully that gives you a decent background to it. So, deal agreed in principle. We're about to bust all records. This is one of those typical 49ers signings where it comes literally out of the blue. 3 days ago was when Romano first reported this, and 3 days later we've got a deal agreed for a potential club record fee. Said it before and I'll say it again. In certain circumstances, the club do move in silence when it comes to signings. It's also interesting to note the fact that Romano has made Smith, Baron Cross, and Team Talk look a little bit like mugs with some of the stuff that they've been saying, which, and again, that's nothing against those three journalists in particular. They are very, very good journalists. It's just, he seems to have really hammered home the point with this one. So make of that one what you will. Folks, that's going to do it for this one. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please click the like button. Make sure you're subscribed. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Does this fill you with excitement like it does for me? Are you looking forward to what's to come? I know I am. Yeah, it's just a really exciting time. So like I said, that's going to do it for this one. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please don't forget to click the like button. If you're new, make sure you subscribe, notifications are turned on. If you're listening to the audio version of this, just make sure that you are liking it for me either on Apple or on Spotify. Guys, take care of each other. Most importantly, take care of yourself. I'll see you on the next one. God, it's never boring being a Leeds United fan. Take it easy. Cheers.